Hey guys, alright, so the update, if you saw my video I uploaded it today below, One All In, check that out, because in a way this is my first One All In project. I don't know whether he wants to admit it for himself or not. There's some crazy divine synchronicity why we're even here together. This is Dylan Maxwell Blau. Blau. How do people find you, by the way? So if they are curious.
I am on Facebook, so you can check us out right on Facebook. Just Dylan Maxwell Blau.
And you put your tag in there. Check that out. So this guy, I would say, is like the dog trainer in my dreams.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, dog trainer in my dreams. And so I dreamt him up, and now he's here. I would be curious from your perspective, Dylan, how in the world are you here with me, here at JP's house? How did this happen?
To be honest, it definitely seems a little magical. Definitely, I mean the fact I was sponsored to come to this trip. Excuse me, sorry. I was sponsored by Lifestyle Jewels actually, who brought me on this trip. So. The fact that people can help bring other people together is pretty magical.
You keep rolling. I'm gonna do this avocado cut if my princess is okay.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm a huge fan of Daniel and JP's work. So just by finding them and seeing that he had a dog, we were lucky to be in sync together and able to make this happen.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So here we are. We got Princess Araya. Araya, come here, girl. Araya, come here.
Just call her Sleeping Beauty.
I'm going to pick her up how Dylan has showed me in a way. Maybe you can explain what's going on.
Yeah, so he's going to pick the dog up in a primitive way rather than kind of carrying it like a human baby. If you think about a lion cub being picked up by the lioness, if you will, they would primitively pick it up by the fat of the neck. And as you can see, if you want to bring the dog's head closer to the camera, the dog's completely calm, the tail's down. They're not reacting. The dog's submitting to this situation and not flailing around crazily. If we were to hold this dog like a human baby, it would want to get out of that situation because it's unnatural. This is the most natural way to pick up a puppy.
So, as you can tell, this guy, I dreamt this guy up and he's here and we're exploring the psychology of training dogs. And before I tell you what that even means in my perspective, what are you doing when you're training dogs in your opinion? Like elevator pitch, like funny kind of, even if you were on like stage, like stand-up comic kind of style. I'm not saying be funny, but I'm saying like, what are you doing when you're training dogs? I'm curious.
I'm kind of just establishing the basic relationship. I explained to everybody that your dog is the president. If you want to imagine your dog as George W. Bush, a very simpleton, and you're the Secret Service. Your job is to let that person know that you have control of the situation. The area is secure, and we're just going to guide you throughout the day, and you don't really have to think. Your dog should be off duty. So that way it can just make a few decisions. And
so this is like, I love the obvious layer here of like how do we get control? How do we have the best and most synergistic relationship with the animal that humans have been partnered with, from my understanding, longer than any other animal. They've been like actually found before even agriculture. I actually learned that today reading the book Sapiens. Quite fascinating. Yeah, so this is an integral part of human history that we're an integral part of. And I'm so stoked on the idea of finding out how to synergize with now a part of my family, my dog Araya here, Princess Araya, in the best way possible. And this guy, this is his passion. And I don't want to get too much in about how the whole potentially magic or the divine synchronicities of how he got here. I'm more curious if you're interested in learning more about this, and if you are interested in me, we're going to be working on his business a bit together, and I'm going to be working on Araya simultaneously, and really kind of synergizing and masterminding here. But after that, I have the weeks freed up for another One All In project, so check out the video below about that. And I would love for you guys, if you're watching these videos at all consistently and this is interesting to you, I'll probably consistently do some live videos with him, because this is super expansive to me, super evolutionary to understand our relationship with dogs, because I think that what you're doing is domesticating this animal. And then I think when someone understands what domestication is, then people will start waking up to their own levels of domestication, and they can start unlocking the jails of their self-imposed prisons by the key of freedom that's always been there. So I think it can kind of shift our consciousness, in my opinion. So this guy to me is genius.
We were talking earlier about getting past your fears and the things that your dog is distracted by.
Yeah, can you explain that? Maybe that's one subject. It's been like endless, like mind-blowing ideas. So I love the idea of how you were saying if your dog has issues with noises, bring out the vacuum cleaner, bring the blender out, let's bring out can you elaborate on that a little bit?
The whole point is that your dog should feel safe and secure in any situation, and you want to work through the problems and the fears. So if your dog is afraid of a blender noise, put a leash on your dog, give it a slight correction, and reassure it that you have control of the situation and it can remain off duty and relax. But most people want to give it affection when it's scared. And when you give affection to a dog when it's scared, you're enhancing that fear, and you're going to continue to have a problem with your dog. So work through the fear and don't enhance it is what we try to do.
Yes, if anyone's ever been on one of our events, whether it's an international tribe design or one of the retreats I've done with my brothers or myself, knows that's how we get the work done. That's how it happens. That's where the breakthroughs are. It's like, oh, this is what you're scared of. All right, in the safest way possible, we do it in the safest and the most loving and unconditionally loving way possible. But it's basically a form of initiation into emotional freedom, is to be untriggerable, and realizing that those are only elevations in your emotional state, and that's a privilege of being a living. It's not something to avoid. It's not something to run away from. It's not something to put so much attention to and like try to bury it so it becomes overwhelmingly, because it's an energy. You ain't gonna block a volcano. You can maybe poke some holes in it and let it turn into beautiful hot springs and geysers, and it just be a nice Yellowstone National Park. But if you try to suppress that energy too long, you're gonna get a big, in my opinion, you might be building up some overwhelming upcoming energy, and we're about poking holes in that and then feeling the freedom with that.
And you just said your triggers can paralyze you, and the same thing can happen with a dog. Those distractions that become triggers that they're reactive to can paralyze them, and they become submissive or reactive in an aggressive way. So it's very similar.
I think it's so fascinating, because a lot of what he's training Araya to do is almost the opposite of like what they train in schools. But and I'm saying, like, well, this is probably a good thing if it's the opposite. Like, I actually see the beauty in this. This is like what we're doing at a lot of our events. We're like uneducating people, like unschooling them, because
breaking the normal pattern.
Yeah, breaking the normal pattern, because that's where evolution takes place, and that's, in my opinion, a good thing to focus on. Evolution, why not?
Yeah. So even on the walk, kind of going through the fear in the situation. Rather than being the pack leader and trying to be a dominant leader, as you know, a leader doesn't have to be like Hitler. A leader can just be somebody who acts like royalty and shows the example and just knows where they're headed, and people will follow somebody who genuinely knows the direction that they're headed if they believe what they believe. And it's the same thing with your dog. When you walk with purpose, your dog will follow you if you're, walking like you're royalty. Like I told you, act like you're a king and just walk and don't even look at your dog. And your dog follows you like, wow, I want to hang out with this guy. He clearly knows where he's going.
Yeah, I would say, and without getting, because this could go, I might have to do a full podcast with him, and without diving like super deep into it all, I imagine if people are looking for a way to evolve or expand, a lot of people that probably are watching these videos are into the idea of self-actualization and realization and evolution and expansion, and seeing if they can, like the hero's journey of becoming the greatest version of themselves. And I would imagine getting experience with training dogs would be like one of the top things I might recommend to if for like a shift in that, if that's what you're looking for, more of an understanding of what's going on. totally. And yeah, he does a great job. This guy's got it down with his dog psychology. I'm stoked.
It's interesting that you say that people should work with dogs, because the #1 program that they have in the prison industry right now is inmates working with dogs, and they're showing that that has several benefits and is very therapeutic. So working with dogs, you'll learn many things about yourself.
Well, I think that, in my opinion, if we really want to become on a fast track of remembering or forgetting or enlightenment or what you already are, however you want to look at that, is to like really dive deep into the behaviors of newborn children, people right before they transition to leaving their human suit behind, aka dying. So in those two extreme states, I think a lot is profoundly unfolded for what's maybe the most significant ways to live our life. And I think dogs also embody that, especially puppies. Especially puppies. And then it's like, that puppy, people ask me about the pit bull. There's a lot of stories about pit bulls. And like, it's a pit bull, oh, pit bull. And I'm like, yeah, pit bulls are, from my understanding of this, I can't imagine that. This is like the best training ever to have a child of my own maybe one day in the future, because this thing acts like a little baby. It's so impressionable that I'm literally I think I'm imprinting on it. So if this becomes a mean dog, that's like because I trained it to be mean, whether it was conscious or not. That's what happened. So I'm wanting to become very conscious about how I'm training this dog, so I can understand even the ways that maybe I'm unconsciously training myself.
Yeah, and they're always in a state of training every single day. Just like, you probably teach people, they have an opportunity to learn and shift their perspectives every day. You can start to think different, and you can start to do new things and experience new things. And the same thing goes with your dog. They can always learn something new. And, just like you said, if the dog is aggressive, it's because you trained it to be that way. Maybe
I'm not
you
saying
didn't.
And purposefully.
I'm not, but it's from a lack of education and knowing what to do. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can teach your dog to be aggressive by giving it too much affection and treating it like a baby. So, that's very true.
And that carries over, because a lot of people at our retreats that we've done and the next event, by the way, I forgot to plug it, Costa Rica, we recently announced it, found out JP's coming as well. A lot of people, JP, Jake Ducey, Troy Casey, check out the list, my brother, Frank J. Picaro, blah, 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 Amber, we got, all right, I'll cut myself off, that's the rabbit hole. But that basically, that is so true for humans as well, that a lot of times when people are on the verge of a lot of people call what they call breakdowns are actually breakthroughs, in my opinion, but they cut themselves off from fully experiencing the breakthrough because they're calling it a breakdown and still resisting it and still suppressing it. But there's a lot of times people don't want to see others cry, but that's because they probably haven't learned how to be comfortable crying themselves, and they're projecting, like they're wanting to make sure that everyone else looks like them. It's like a primate thing. You want to be comfortable, and people are mimicking each other. It's what we do so far is what we understand as primates. So don't feel too bad about it. But crying is probably what would be one of the most healing things to do, in my opinion, of the collective right now. And getting people to understand that you can laugh till you cry or cry till you laugh, and they're both very honorable. There's not like one that you should do over the other. They're both a release of energy. They keep the energy in motion. That's what emotion is. If you leave it in motion, then you'll have nice fresh spring water bubbling. If you try to start damming it up, you might start getting polluted waters of consciousness flowing through you, in my opinion. Potentially, you're more at risk at that. So, yeah, man. Thanks for bringing all this stuff up.
Yeah, for sure. Look forward to continuing to enlighten those that want to listen.
Yeah,
as we see the sleeping puppy.
One more. I woke her up. She might not like that, but I do like this.
Straight from sleeping on the ground, if this dog was in pain, it would be making noise, it would be reacting. This dog, believe me, likes to protest when it wants to, and as you can see, it's super calm and
such a good dog.
Very primitive and natural to...
We're training her good. We're getting her, we've even been getting her on the surfboard a little bit already, so I would stay tuned if
Definitely stay tuned.
Like the idea of all that.
Peace.